Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Bassetlaw District Council's first health and safety virtual meeting. I would just like to point out to everybody that due to the coronavirus outbreak, COVID-19, that the council has forwarded that all committees stay the same structure from chairman and vice chairman and committee members for this next ensuing year. So the committee of the health and safety will remain the same. Welcome everyone to this afternoon's virtual health and safety committee meeting hosted by Bassetlaw District Council. Given the current challenging situation we all face following the outbreak of COVID-19, new legislation has been approved that enables councils to host virtual meetings rather than require members to be present in a committee chamber when making a decision. This keeps everyone safe by maintaining a social distancing etiquette and also allows business to be conducted in an appropriate manner. It is very important that the councillors can hear each other, so I will invite members in alphabetical order to introduce themselves and in so doing test their broadband connection. I will ask members to respond that they are here, please. Starting the roll call in order. Chairman, Councillor David Challoner, I'm here. Vice Chairman, Dave Fretwell.
I'm here.
Thank you. Councillor Dean Brett.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Cliff Entwistle.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Keith Izzard.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Dave Presley.
Here, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor John Sanger.
Here, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Clayton Tyndall.
Here, Chair.
Thank you. And Councillor Bill Tomlinson.
Present, Chairman.
Thank you. We also have a number of officers in attendance and trade union representatives. I will do a roll call as I have wrote them down in front of me, starting with Keith Circuit.
Here, Chair.
Thank you. Philip Lee.
Here, Chair.
Thank you. Melanie Bassett.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. Jean Common.
Present.
Thank you. Steve Brown. Steve's here, aren't you, Steve?
Present, Chair.
Thank you. Jim Moran.
Yes, I'm present, Chair.
Thank you. Sue Bowler.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. And the facilitators at this moment in time is Cara and James, who were taking the minutes. Ellen is out of the meeting at the moment through technical problems. Right. If a number of...
Hi, Chair. Sorry, I'm back on.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Ellen. If a number of members lose connection and the meeting becomes inquorate, and the live streaming for public viewing fails, I shall adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes to allow connection to be re-established. Given this is a virtual meeting, there is no corporate responsibility to detail a fire procedure as we ordinarily would. However, I would like to highlight that this committee is being live streamed on social media, so all participants, please be aware of your actions and take appropriate safety precautions from your place of live streaming. Can I also please remind members and officers and union representatives taking part in this meeting that they switch off their microphones when not speaking. Thank you. Agenda item number 1 on your agenda is apologies for absent. Is there any apologies at all?
No apologies have been received, Chair.
Thank you. Agenda item number 2 is to receive declarations of interest by members and officers. Are there any declarations of interest by members?
None have been received, Chair.
Thank you. Any by officers?
None have been received, Chair.
Thank you. Agenda item number 3 is of the meeting held on the 15th of January 2020, pages 5 to 8 of your agenda. Are there any comments or observations which anybody would like to do? What I would do now is I will go through people in alphabetical order and ask if they have got any comments or observations that they would like to speak on. Councillor Dave Challoner, I've got nothing to bring out of the last minutes. Vice Chair David Fretwell.
Sorry, Dave, I might have been on the mute button there.
Yeah.
No, I've got nothing to fetch you up.
Thank you. Councillor Dean Brett.
Nothing, thank you.
Councillor Cliff Entwistle.
Nothing, thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Councillor Keith Izzard.
Can you unmute your microphone, please, Councillor Izzard?
I'll come back to Keith if he's having problems. Councillor Dave Presley.
Nothing at this time, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Joan Sanger.
Nothing, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Clayton Tyndall.
Nothing, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Bill Tomlinson.
Nothing to add at this point in time, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go and ask the 4 union representatives. Have you got anything you'd like to bring up, Keith?
Nothing to add, Chair. Thank you.
Anything you'd like to add, Philip?
Can you unmute your microphone, please, Philip?
I'll come back to Phil if he's having problems unmuting. Melanie, have you got anything you'd like to bring?
Nothing, Chair.
Thank you. Jean, have you got anything you'd like to bring?
No, nothing from me.
Thank you, Jean. We'll just go back to Councillor Keith Izzard. Have you anything to bring up from the previous minutes on 15th of January, Keith? I'll take that as a no.
It looks like he's having some problems, so I might give him a call. Just make sure he's okay.
Okay, thanks, Ellen. And Phil, go back to Phil. Have you managed to unmute your microphone? Have you got anything you'd like to bring up, Phil?
Can you hear me yet?
Yeah.
That's it then. Nothing to add.
Thank you. Agenda item number 4 is the minutes of action and implementation list, pages 9 to 10 of your agenda. I would like now to invite Steve Brown, Head of Corporate Services, in to give us an update on the situation and about the problems we've been having with the phone lines. So I'd now like to hand over to Steve Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I think from reading your minutes, there were 2 incidents that were referred to at your last meeting. They are actually separate issues. So these occurred towards the end of 2019. The first issue related to the electrical supply to the server room at Queen's Buildings. We encountered 2 problems there. One was a failure of the air conditioning facility that caused overheating in that room. That was sorted out, and then there was a fuse tripped that caused more serious damage to the server that deals with the phones, that led to some ongoing problems while that was rectified. That was then sorted. We then had an external problem related to the flooding in November of 2019, in which it was clear to us that there were problems outside of Queen's Buildings on the main BT network. It's fair to say that BT were initially reluctant to acknowledge that there was a problem, but every time we had heavy rain after that period, it coincided with ongoing problems, be it an hour, be it a couple of hours, with the phone network. Eventually, BT acknowledged there was a problem and a new fibre connection was put into the building. Since that time, we've not encountered any problems. I think with the combination of these 2 issues, it became, for some people, it was seen as an issue with the Skype system. I have to say there was no connection with that. They were related purely to the network and nothing to do with Skype. And obviously, I think in the current climate that we're in, I think members and officers have been able to see the benefits of the Skype system that we invested in as an authority, and indeed this next version of Skype, which is Teams, that we will be looking to make greater use of. What I would like to say is one of the things moving forward is with your audio and data links, you're only as good as your weakest point. So that can be anywhere on the network. But one of the things that we are doing is looking at putting some more resilience into the system. So it will improve our connections at both Queen's Buildings, Retford and Carlton Forest. So in the future, if we were to have a problem, we would have additional capacity to switch calls around, which would assist us if a similar situation was to happen in the future. When we did have this situation, I know one of the concerns was about communications. We used all of our social media links, the Facebook pages, etc., to advise customers of the issues we were facing. We also put details onto the council's website and through other media channels. We were able to use the Housing Telephone Contact Centre at Carlton Forest as an emergency fallback position, and there were, of course, a range of mobile phone numbers if there had been a real emergency situation occurred during that period. Thank you, Chair.
Bear with me one moment. Are you talking to them?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're back on stream now, Keith.
Thank you. Cheers.
Can they hear you?
Thanks for that report, Steve. I will now go around the committee members and then obviously the union members if they have got anything they would like to ask you on that report that you've just given, Steve. Thank you. Myself, Councillor Dave Challoner, I've got nothing to add. Vice Chairman David Fretwell, have you got anything you'd like to ask?
No, nothing to add. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Dean Brett.
Sorry, me, I'm a bit of trouble with mutes. Nothing, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Dean. Councillor Cliff Entwistle.
Nothing to ask, Dave. Thank you.
Councillor Keith Izzard.
Yeah, present. Can see you now, Chairman.
Yeah. Obviously, did you hear the last report that came from Steve about obviously the communications and the problems that would have with the phone lines? I think we've lost him here. Councillor Dave Presley, have you got anything you would like to ask?
Not asked, Chairman, but just to say that they've improved 100% getting through. That was the problems a lot of people were having, and that's changed. I had one that complained to me about it, and Steve dealt with it, and I think it's been improved 100% since this started, Chairman. It's a lot better than now.
Right, thank you, David, for that comment. And yes, I would like to reiterate that. I find things, the communications, when you're ringing up on a landline now to Queen's Buildings are a lot better. Councillor Jones Sanger, have you got anything you'd like to add to Steve Brown's report? Councillor Clayton Tyndall, have you got anything you'd like to add?
Just to see if it's possible, I've noticed during the COVID period that some businesses are doing a callback method when they're on hold. Is that something that can be put into place with this?
Obviously it can. Could that be took into account, Steve, do you think?
I'll investigate that's whether that's available as an option. Obviously, when people's numbers do come up and officers can identify those, we do attempt to ring people back, but I'll take on board what Councillor Tyndall said there, and we'll get back to you on that.
But, you know, once again, Steve and Clayton, when I've run Queen's Buildings a couple of times this last week, if the officer or the department weren't available, there was a facility for people to leave a recorded message for the person or the department. So there is something in place, but like Steve says, it's something we maybe could look at as well. But thanks for that comment. Councillor Bill Tomlinson.
Thank you, Chairman. Nothing to add. I think the problems have been solved somewhat. That's good news. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to the unions. Keith, have you got anything you'd like to question or add?
Nothing to add, no questions, Chair. Thank you. And thanks, Steve, for the report. The system does seem to have got a lot better. Thank you.
Anything from you, Philip?
No, nothing, thanks.
Anything from you, Melanie?
No, thanks. I don't think there's anything we could have done about flooding, is there, that affected the phones of BT? No. So it's just one of those things.
Yeah, thank you. Jean, have you got anything you'd like to comment on?
No, nothing from me, Chair.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to thank Steve for his time. He can stay in with the meeting if he wants, but if he's got other pressing things, I'd like to thank him for his time and his attendance and the report that he has given. Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you, Chair.
Agenda item number 5 is the outstanding minutes list, pages 11 to 12 on your agenda. There are no outstanding minutes. We will now move on to agenda item number 6A is accident report for period 1st of January 2020 to 31st of March 2020, pages 13 to 20 of your agenda. And I would ask Jim Moran to read this report, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'll run through the report. As you said, this is for the period January to March 2020. And we also do a comparison with the same period during 2019. For this current reporting period, we've had 10 incidents reported within the council. This compares with 14 incidents that were reported for the same period in 2019. We've had one reportable incident to the Health and Safety Executive for this period, and again that compares favourably with 4 reported incidents during the same period in 2019. We have further details of the one reportable incident at Appendix 1 of the report. We've also lost 7 days, working days that is, as a result of the accidents during the period, and again a favourable comparison as we lost 137 days for the same period in 2019. We've given the committee some further information and breakdown of different information, injury types and accident causes at Appendix 2. And from that information, you may notice that the majority of incidents during the period were caused by slip and trip incidents. 4 of the 10, in fact, were caused by slip and trips. 2 of the incidents during the period resulted in some time off work. One being the reportable one to the HSE, which resulted in 5 working days lost. And the second one was 2 days lost. Table 3 at Appendix 2 also provides a summary of the accidents by service. And you will note there's an overall decrease across the council from 14 to 10 incidents recorded, with the biggest decrease arising from within the housing service, which has dropped from 5 last time to 1 this time. Now, the figures this time actually include details of an incident to a police employee within Queen's Buildings. It wasn't a serious, it wasn't a lost time injury, it was a slip and trip injury where one of the police employees tripped on the stairs, at the top of the stairs at Queen's Buildings. We also in the report give a longer term comparison to provide you with a better average and a better comparison against accident stats over a 3-year period. And you'll see in Appendix 3 that Appendix 2, at the end of Appendix 2, the 3-year average being 10.16, and our current statistics for this quarter is 10. So we're slightly under the 3-year average for total number of accidents reported. Now, as far as the reportable incidents, those reportable to HSE, for this period we've had 1, and the 3-year average for the council over the last three years is 2. So again, we're half of that figure. Obviously, we'll continue to work with managers whenever accidents are reported. We do sort of discuss with them options for control measures and for improving the situations on the ground. We normally report on incidents during for DWP staff within Queen's Buildings, but on this occasion there has been no instance involving DWP staff. And that's that report, Chair. I can take any questions.
Thanks for that report, Jim. What I will do once again, go through the councillors and then the union officials and ask them if they've got any questions, observations or comments. I, Councillor Dave Challoner, I haven't got any. Vice Chairman Dave Fretwell, are you?
Ask him one question, please. It keeps coming up, slips and trips. Don't get me wrong, the last meeting we had was absolutely fantastic with the amount of injuries and time off we've had with people, and this is a good read as well. Slips and sprains. Now, is it a work boot issue? We'll look at something better.
Sorry, I missed that last bit, David. You just cut out a little bit.
Sorry, Jim. I was just asking about the slips and trips and sprains. I mean, is it a work boot issue? Can we look at a better issue with boot for some of the workmen, especially the bin men that are climbing in and out of the trucks and things like that?
That's certainly something we can look at, Dave, but normally as part of the investigation of each accident, we do ask managers to consider the PPE and whether it was appropriate or not. It hasn't been highlighted to us that the boots or safety footwear was a problem, but we can go back and look at that for the last quarter and see if any of those related to, the incorrect or damaged or whatever footwear. We'll look at that one.
Yeah, thank you, Jim.
Councillor Dean Brett.
No questions at the moment.
Thank you. Councillor Cliff Entwistle.
No questions, Dave.
Councillor Keith Izzard. I think we keep losing Keith with the reception. Councillor Dave Presley.
Yes, Chairman. Not a question really, but congratulations, I think, to all this pandemic. We're doing very well. And I think from the committee, we ought to send, especially to the refuse workers, our thanks for what they've done through this period without any real incidents and accidents. And we've done really well, Chairman. I think we can send that from this committee.
Yeah, that's something that we're going to bring up at the end, David, of the committee. But yeah, Fuller, take on board what you're saying, because once again, from a refuse side of things, we have never let the general public down of Bassetlaw. We have kept that service up to its ultimate goal, which is to deliver a first grade service and standard, but also maintaining social distancing. I've had other vehicles involved, taking members out, people out, part of the team, so that the refuse collections can carry on. So all that will be spoke about at the end. But thank you very much, David. Councillor Jones-Sanger. Once again, I think we've got...
Can you unmute your microphone, please, Councillor Sanger? I think we might have to come back to her, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Clayton Tyndall.
None from me, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Bill Tomlinson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for a very concise report, and I concur completely with Councillor Presley that the people who are working on the council, particularly refuse collection, deserve congratulations. But no more questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Bill. Over to the unions. Keith, have you got anything you'd like to question or comment on?
No questions on this report, Chair. Thank you. Thanks for the report, Jim. I would just like to, I know we said we'll chat later, but I would certainly like to concur with everyone regarding the services, and especially refuse. It's not missed a beat, despite quite a number of their staff being shielding and being off. So I think that's great. So, yeah, no questions on this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Phil, have you got anything you'd like to add?
No question at all, thanks.
Thank you. Melanie?
No questions, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Jean?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you, love.
Can I just say, Mr. Chairman, I concur with what Dave Presley said. Sorry, I didn't know I'd touched my microphone. But yeah, the service has been marvellous. They must be the fittest men, our bin men, because they run all the time. So grateful thanks. Thanks, Chair.
It's all right. We're entering them into Bassetlaw's Krypton factor next year when we can go back to some kind of normality.
Very good.
Agenda item number 6B is a progress report of health and safety and emergency planning priorities, pages 21 to 50 of your agenda. I would ask Sue Bowler to give the first part of the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. We'll start with 3.2 on the fire risk assessments. All the planned fire risk assessments that we had in the diary, they've been postponed until normal operations resume, which will, well, hopefully we'll be looking at later in the year. Domestic property, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, only emergency fire actions are being carried out, and work on void properties where service levels allow us to do that. 3.3 on the water quality monitoring. The quarterly water quality meeting has not taken place. We missed the last one due to the pandemic. We've got one scheduled in the diary for tomorrow, so we will be discussing the agenda tomorrow. The responsible person for the Legionella control within the council is in direct contact with DCS, and any items that require attention are being completed. The council has a service level agreement with DCS, and they continue to carry out site monitoring for Queen's Buildings, Retford Town Hall. They also do Retford Enterprise Centre, all of Carlton Forest Depot, and the independent living schemes as per the contract. The independent living schemes, they've just been chlorinated and sampled by DCS, and access within the property schemes for people who are shielding or people who may have symptoms, they're not done at this time, so they'll come back at a later date. So they're noted for future reference. We just had the Legionella results back in for Westmoreland House and Swallow Court, and they're fine. So we've got no issues there. So 3.4 housing quality monitoring. The housing Legionella meeting took place via Skype on the 2nd of June. We also had one yesterday. Second element, have the property stock to complete for this financial year. They do have a few properties left from last year that they're trying to get done over the next 2 weeks to catch up a little bit. Because of the COVID, it's delayed them as well. So second element will be carrying out, as on a risk assessment basis. So that's just work ongoing. The 3.5, the health and safety training. Limited health and safety training has been completed. We've mainly used e-learning packages such as Zoom. The fire awareness training, we've managed to get 3 people through that. Sharps and needle stick injury training, 3 people. Category B asbestos training, that was through the Zoom, and that's mainly housing, 33 people, and manual handling, 2 people, making a grand total of 41. So given the circumstances that we're under, we're trying to get as much done as we possibly can. The Health and Safety Executive have also allowed an extension on the first aid qualifications until the 30th of September for the time being, but I would imagine that some new guidance will be coming out on that shortly. Staff members now working from home were asked to complete a DSE assessment to establish what additional requirements they would need for home working, to make sure that they have a safe workstation to work from. So far, 45 people have completed their assessments. So actions arising from these DSE assessments have been raised with their manager to complete. So again, that's ongoing work. 3.6, COVID-19 secure risk assessments. There have been 4 generic COVID-19 secure risk assessment templates created to assist managers to complete risk assessments before employees can return back to work. The assessments have been pre-populated to assist managers within the process of enabling them to edit, reflect working practices. In addition, there is government, HSE and Public Health England guidance documents attached to the assessments for reference. The COVID-19 secure risk assessments cover the following areas. Number 1, work inside domestic and commercial properties. Number 2, safely delivering work within office environments. Number 3, safely delivering work outdoors. And number 4, working safely in teams from vehicles. All 4 have been appended to this report for the committee's consideration and comment. Work on COVID-19 secure risk assessment is in progress with all departments within the council. Getting the markets back up and running and getting public toilets open have been a priority in line with government guidelines and the opening up of the high street in public realms. We've also just over this last weekend just opened the play areas in Bassett Law. So that's been a huge amount of work that we've been doing. Reception areas, all council buildings with property team have been sourcing sneeze screens, hand sanitizer, which are wall and floor mounted units for distribution, and also we've been sourcing them for the high streets and the market area. Increased cleaning regimes have been introduced along with floor distancing markers and appropriate signage. Information on the use of face coverings has also been communicated to staff. A return to work template questionnaire has also been developed on the SHE system. This was to enable managers to complete an assessment for people who are clinically vulnerable, but who haven't received a letter from the NHS to shield. It's aimed at people who are not able to work from home and to try and get them back to work. So I do believe that has had some impact, and some people are now back at work who were at home. And that completes my progress report so far, Chair. I'll take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now go around the councillors and then the union, please. Councillor Dave Challoner, I've got no comment or observation. Vice Chair Dave Fretwell, have you got any comments or observations or questions?
A couple. I think
Yeah.
the risk assessments are. I think the risk assessments are absolutely brilliant. Great effort from your team, Jim and Sue. Going back to the last paragraph, I was one of those that came back to work that was not shielding, but underlying health issues. The risk assessment I went through with the line manager was okay. I was allowed to return back to work. So thank you very much, Jim. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you. Councillor Dean Brett.
None, thanks.
Councillor Cliff Entwistle.
None, thanks, Dave.
Councillor Keith Izzard.
I have called and spoken to Shirley. He is having issues. He can hear us. We just can't hear him. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Right. So at least he can hear the meeting. If he has got anything that he wishes to bring up, if he would like to forward it on to in an email, if he can, if he's got that facility, then we'll try and pick it up that way. Thanks, Ellen.
That's great.
Councillor
Thank you.
Dave Presley.
Yeah, just on the play areas, Chairman.
Yeah,
they're going to be very difficult, I think, for us to look after them. What sort of degree are we doing for the play areas? We've got 30 odd or something like that in Bassetlaw that we look after. What sort of degree are we looking at that for, Chairman?
Over to you, Sue.
Thank you. We've done the risk assessment for the play areas, and we've agreed that I think Keith managed to get about 8 or 9 open at the weekend, and the rest on Monday. So they should all be up and open now. We've got 36 that we look after altogether in Bassetlaw. They are health and safety inspected on a weekly basis, and they will be cleaned. The signage should all be up, because he said until the signage went up, they couldn't open them, and then the cleaning and disinfecting them as well on a regular basis.
Could Chairman, could they send us the number, where they are, the play areas, so we know where they are as a committee? Could that be sent out?
I think that could be done, couldn't it, Sue?
Yes, I can get a list off Keith, and I can get it circulated through Ellen.
Lovely. That's great. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Councillor Joan Sanger.
Can you unmute your microphone, please, Councillor Sanger?
It keeps doing it itself. I've never touched it. Nothing to add, only many thanks again to everyone.
Thank you. Councillor Clayton Tyndall.
Same again, just to say thank you for those that have been able to adapt and work from home, for keeping services going.
Thank you. Councillor Bill Tomlinson.
Thank you, Chairman. I have no questions, only just a vote of thanks for everyone who's been involved in this. Thank you.
Thank you. Just before I come to the union side, I would just like to point out that obviously this council is doing everything within its remit, but has to adhere to government guidelines, and that's what we are doing. And obviously where it comes around to play parks, these are one of the final things that's from a public side of things that are being opened up. We know that the open spaces side of things, where there's like the fields and things like that, we have asked people to go out, enjoy themselves, but to adhere to social distancing. I think this is just exactly what Sue says. We can put the signage up, we can ask people, and it's down to the people to adhere to the information given from us as a council, which has come from central government, so that people do stay safe. So we can only be guided from what is coming from central government, and that's what we're doing. I think we're doing a very good job. On the union side, Keith, have you got anything you'd like to question or add?
Thanks, Chair. The only thing I would say with regards to Queen's buildings, I understand that all the hand sanitizer units are not yet in place, and certainly there are no screens in place in the reception area, and obviously we don't want staff returning to work if those aren't done. The sanitisers were chased up yesterday, and we were told that they are on order. On the other side of the coin is I've had meetings with senior management, and they're in no hurry to get people back to the office, so things are remaining as they are for, let's say, the foreseeable future. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Keith. Phil, have you got anything you'd like to add?
I'd just like to say thank you to Jim and Sue, because there's been far more work and it's become far more difficult for them to do, so well done, and I've got no questions to ask.
Thank you.
Melanie, raise the hand, Chair.
Right. Who's that? Ellen?
Sue.
Right.
I think she wants to speak.
Okay, so go on.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say that unless we do the risk assessment and we believe that it's COVID secure, we wouldn't want staff back at work anyway. And I know that we are having trouble getting sort of certain things in place. So, I just sort of agree with Keith Circuit that unless it is COVID secure and we've got these control measures in place, then we don't want anybody back at Queen's buildings.
Right, thanks for that as well. So I think I'd just like to add a little bit on that, because with us, with Queen's buildings now being multiple occupied, this throws us into a different scenario, because obviously we've got the police in the building, which have come through certain entrances. We've obviously got DWP. DWP has been shut down and doing things virtually or by phone conversations and things like that, which we all know. But sooner or later, these departments will be wanting to open up, especially DWP, and I'll presume it'll be appointment only, and there'll be all the guidelines coming in if they've got to wear a face mask and things like that. But from a council perspective, we are putting everything in place for all our employees, and obviously once again following guidelines. But these other services must need, obviously will be aware that they are coming through our building, so we have got to make sure it's doubly COVID secure, if you know what I mean. So we are putting the things in place. That's just obviously to back up a response, because I do know that DWP might be pushing to open the doors a little bit. Plus as well, we've got our housing team and things like that on the same ground floor. So it's important that everybody is singing off the same hymn sheet as regards COVID responsibilities. Melanie, have you got anything you'd like to add?
No, thank you, Chair.
Cheers. Jean?
Yeah, just a couple of things.
Yeah.
In relation to the COVID secure, in a sense, we're probably better than some organisations because we don't hot desk. So that will reduce some of the risk anyway. And then in the communal areas that we share with the other services like DWP and the police, it's a matter of the handrails and things, and I think, and door handles, and I think they're sort of like managed anyway because of the increase in cleaning that we're having, because we've now got cleaners coming in at lunchtime and stuff, which is helping to reduce that sort of like risk because those sort of areas are being cleaned. One of the things going back to the COVID-19 risk assessments as well was just wondering what we've got in place, or whether we've thought about the mental health of staff that are going to end up returning to work, because I've spoken to a few people in relation to their anxieties about coming back into a workplace where we're at full capacity again. I know that's probably way off for now, but at present some teams are working on rotated bases, so they're happy doing a few days from home, coming in when there's reduced numbers in the office and everything's fine. But their anxieties are starting to creep a little, thinking if we've got more people in the building and the fact that the virus isn't dispersed, it heightens the risk and anxieties of possibly contracting the virus, even if they're not going to contract it. If we've done everything and we've got all the mitigation in place to prevent that from happening, their anxiety levels are increasing. What are we going to do to support staff on that level?
Would you like to answer that, Sue or Jim?
I think as far as the sort of mental health awareness goes and supporting people who are anxious, I would imagine it would come from the HR department and they would be available to support staff in that sense.
Just on that, Sue, obviously at the pre-agenda meeting, this was something I was going to bring up in Chairman's Any Other Business, because I know you were unavailable for the pre-agenda, but it got fetched up at the pre-agenda and we had a bit of a lengthy discussion, and obviously Jim gave his view on it. So if you want, we can pick up on that on Chairman agenda item number 7, and we'll make it something that we've got to follow up on, so that it can be available and made for a future reference or future report, or even if we get something that it can be sent out to all committee members and obviously union members, because once again, sometimes people don't feel not to use the word confident going to a line manager with maybe an issue, whereas they might feel a bit more comfortable if they went to a union representative. And we want them to feel that they can approach anybody and open up with whatever the problem is, and that's what we're there to do. We're there to help. So we'll chase that one up in any other business. Is that okay with you, Joan?
Me? Yeah. Yes.
It's okay with me, Dave. I was going to raise it.
Yeah. That's I've wrote it down prior. I thought I'm going to steal Dave Fretwell's thunder here. So the other part of this report, 6B, is emergency planning policies, their priorities.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yeah, go on.
It's Keith Circuit. Can I just make one comment before we move on?
Yeah, no problem.
It is regards Queen's Buildings and our DWP colleagues. I was told quite late on last week that DWP had been told to open this Monday just gone for appointments only to clients who had been in the shielding category. However, my colleague at PCS had been consulted on risk assessments. They were okay. And it seemed as though they were set for open, and it wouldn't have affected any Bassett Law Council staff. But it was on the condition that screens had been fitted in the DWP part of the office. However, that was arranged for Sunday, but for whatever reason, I understand that the screens that were brought were the wrong size. They weren't fitted, so therefore the DWP section is not yet open. And I understand there is no date yet for when it will be, but obviously it sounds like it could be imminent.
Right, thank you, Keith. Just going back to Jim or Sue.
Sorry, Keith. I was just going to say earlier that Keith had his hand up, but Councillor Stanger did as well, I think. I don't know if you might have already answered the question now.
No, I'm fine.
Sorry for butting in, Ellen. Thank you.
To Sue or Jim, obviously, are DWP in contact with yourselves as regards the Health and Safety Department?
Yeah, I can answer. We've had a meeting with DWP, or one of our team had a meeting with DWP last Friday, and we did insist that they wouldn't be allowed to return to the building unless they had an acceptable COVID secure risk assessment in place. They're a national organisation. They have got it, and they are returning to some offices. The screens were an essential part of that, as Keith said, and I've literally just had an email before this committee started to let me know that the screen installation has been delayed, and it's likely to be next week now before they actually get the screens installed at Queen's Buildings. So that will be a delay. They had expected to be in this Thursday, tomorrow, but that's now been put back till next week at the earliest, at least until the screens are fitted.
Right, thank you for that, Jim. You may as well stay on, Jim, because it's down to your part, emergency planning priorities.
No, Chairman.
Hello, Dave.
Chairman.
Dave Presley.
Yeah, there's just Citizen Advice Bureau workers as well, Chairman. Now, I don't know whether they're coming back or not, so we need to check it with them when they're going to come back to work.
Yeah. Just on that, Jim, with David bringing that in, obviously there's the 2 shires as well, I think, which operate from that side of things. If it would be possible, could we find out that all the different departments or people that are involved in using Queen's buildings in one shape or another fully inform us of what their procedures for COVID-19 are, which obviously DWP have, because they've been in liaise with, and obviously the police, but such as like Councillor Presley's fetched up, the citizens' advice, we need to be knowing if things are going to be starting to open up, so that we can make sure that our things are there to actually access them and be there to support them if need be.
Yeah, I can confirm that, Chairman, that is an essential part of allowing tenants or partners in buildings to return to work. It's the same as for any council service. You mentioned playgrounds, the markets, all of them have had to produce a COVID secure risk assessment before they're allowed and permitted to come back to work. That would be exactly the same for the CAB or two shires. We would be asking them to prove and provide us with that information.
Is that okay, David? Right. Thank you. So yeah, you can go on to your report again now, Jim.
Okay, thanks, Jim. We're still on COVID virus, I'm afraid. COVID-19 4.1. Just for information, the 11th of March, it was declared a global pandemic by the World Health Organization. And the response to the pandemic is being determined at national level, as we all know, and it's been delivered and coordinated for us at a regional level and local level by the LRF, the Local Resilience Forum. We are, as are all local authorities in Nottinghamshire, part of that with all our other partner agencies, the Blue Light Services and others. The council's response to the pandemic is constantly under review, and it is a rapidly changing situation, and we are having to respond to that as quickly as we can. Sue's mentioned already the COVID-19 secure generic risk assessments have been produced. These are to assist service managers to make sure that their service areas can be made safe before we get staff to return to those, and that will be a condition of staff returning. They will not be allowed to return unless that risk assessment has been completed satisfactorily. As you would expect, a significant number of employees have now been able to work from home, and this is in line with government guidance and advice. Again, we have spoken already about the essential services, refuse collection being one of them. The work that's been carried out to ensure those services were maintained was coordinated across Nottinghamshire. All councils were speaking to each other to ensure that that we could all prioritise the same services to keep running. Although we're all being affected by the pandemic, our line from health and safety, and I know Sue will back me up on this, is we will always expect any health and safety requirements still to be in place during this incident. We do not water down any of the health and safety requirements because of COVID-19. If you need protection to do a particular activity, you still need that protection now, just as much or probably even more than you needed prior to this. Regular staff updates and information are being delivered through the council's intranet to make sure that that catches everybody who is either working from home or continuing to work from the workplace. Paragraph 5 now, corporate risk group, no change here. The main corporate risk for health and safety is that the failure to properly risk assess council practices and take appropriate action. Now that risk level is maintained the same at C3 amber risk. Obviously, we'll make this committee aware if that risk level changes. There was a corporate risk group meeting last week, and the report and the update was given at that meeting, and the risk continues to be C3 amber risk, so there was no movement. And that's it, Chair, from me.
Thank you. I'll now move around the members and the unions again, to see if they've got any questions on Jim's report or any comments. Myself, Councillor Dave Challoner, I've got no questions or comments. Vice Chairman Dave Fretwell.
Yeah, just on the generic risk assessments for the managers. I asked for some sanitising gel today, and I think we're starting to run low. We don't use the hand blowers no more, so we needed some paper towels. But the sanitising gel, we need some more.
Okay. There is still a fair supply of hand sanitizer in the stores, David. I know that because I do a weekly PPE return to the LRF that I mentioned earlier, and we still have a significant supply of hand sanitizer in the store. So speak to your service manager to get a supply released from there.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. I will do. Thank you.
Councillor Dean Brett.
No questions, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Cliff Entwistle.
Can you unmute your microphone, please, Councillor Entwistle?
No questions, Dave. Thank you.
Councillor Keith Izzard. Obviously, I think you can hear us, but obviously you haven't got video footage. If there's anything that you'd like to bring up, Keith, you can email it on. Councillor Dave Presley.
Yes, Chairman, on face masks, when people come back to work, are they going to have face masks? Because we're using them now, taxis, buses, any transport, we have to have them on. What about the staff coming back to work, Chairman?
Over to you, Jim.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Face masks, if face masks are required pre-COVID, because there's a hazardous substance or whatever that we're working with, they will still be required. If it's purely because of COVID-19, then unless the staff are engaged in direct contact and care services to members of the public or working closely, currently it's in hospitals, care services, public transport, there is no mandatory requirement to use face masks within our operations. So it will not be a mandatory requirement. However, face masks and face coverings. Face coverings are optional. If members of staff want to use face coverings in the workplace, that will be entirely at their own discretion. The council won't try to encourage that because it's more important that we keep hand sanitisation, social distancing, the screens and the other control measures that we've got in place are more effective than face coverings. So we won't be promoting that, but we will support it, and we will provide the staff that choose to use them with adequate information and support to make sure that they can use them safely and dispose of them safely, which is seems to be a growing problem around certain areas. So we will do that. We'll support those people that choose to, but there is no, it won't become mandatory, Councillor Presley.
Over to you, David.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chairman. That's a good answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor John Sanger.
Right, thanks to Jim and his team. We're very grateful. As usual, we're in good hands. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Joan. Councillor Clayton Tyndall.
None from me, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Bill Tomlinson.
Thank you, Chairman. No questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Over to the unions. Keith, have you got anything?
No questions, Chair. Thank you. Echo the big thank you to all the health and safety team. Thanks very much.
Cheers. Phil?
No questions, thanks.
Thank you. Melanie?
No questions, thank you, Chair.
Cheers. Jean?
Yeah, no questions from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, we now move on to the recommendation, which is on page 25. If members would please respond if you are in favour, against or abstain. Please answer clearly, only when your name is called. Councillor David Challoner, I'm in favour. Dave Fretwell.
In favour.
Thank you. Dean Brett.
In favour.
Thank you. Councillor Cliff Entwistle.
In favour, Dave.
Councillor Keith Izzard. Councillor Dave Presley.
In favour, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Joan Sanger.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Clayton Tyndall.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Bill Tomlinson.
Thank you, Chairman. In favour. Thank you.
Thank you. From the unions, Keith.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Phil.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Melanie.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. And Jean.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Agenda item number 7 is any business which the chairman considers to be urgent. Obviously, like I stated, that at the pre-agenda meeting, Dave Fretwell did bring up about obviously mental health and obviously occupational health and things like that. So I'd bring Dave in now so that he can bring his item up that he wishes. Then it can be put on the agenda for next time, or can be answered next time, or we can find some answers out. Over to you, Dave.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to raise an issue on stress and mental health. I raised it before a previous meeting and was told it was an HR issue. Stress is one of the biggest health issues at work today, damaging the physical or mental health of our workers, and has been classed in a category of an hazard. We all have a legal responsibility on health and safety and welfare of our employees. The point we're trying to put across is that it's not just an HR issue, it's also an health and safety issue on all those issues, everybody involved in this meeting, everybody that works with Bassett Law District Council. I'd just like to ask Jim, do we have a stress management policy in place? When was it agreed? Does it need updating? Was it spoke about and involved all the necessary unions? Now we've also got GMB and Unite on board. Thank you, Chair.
If you'd like to try and answer that, please, Jim.
I will give an answer to it, Chair. It's probably not going to be very helpful. I think we need to come back on this issue because, yes, we do have a stress policy. And as we've said previously, it is a policy that was produced by our HR department. I do know we have it, but unfortunately, I can't answer the other questions as to when it was last reviewed. I know it's been in place for a number of years, I can say that, but as to when it was last reviewed, I'm sorry, I can't give that information at the minute, but I will find out.
Right, thanks for that, Jim. I'd just like to add to this, obviously, to add a bit more meat to the bones, what Dave Fretwell's fetched up. Obviously, in these unforeseen times, these trying times, these COVID-19 times, like what has been said, people have got to change from what they realised was normal. There will be no more normal after all this lot's finished because people are so apprehensive. People are so on edge. Some people have even so frightened to go out their own houses. It's unbelievable how this pandemic has affected people. And the mental health issue is a massive one. And it's one that I think that as a council, and it needs to come not only from a council, but it needs to come from central government, the effect that this is going to have on people, either returning to work, whether they feel under stress, whether they feel under duress or pressured into coming back to work, which has been stated that won't happen. But in other cases, away from a council, different things happen. So I think it's something that the council, that we need to bring to the attention of the cabinet, working with all the other departments within the council, HR. Mental health is not just it's not to me an HR problem. The mental health side of that is if somebody's having time off work, that's when it becomes an HR problem. That's when it should come down to seeing what job that entitles, what the stresses are within the job and everything like that. It's not just trying to make it one size fits all. This is a massive area now that we're going to go into. I think it'll put a lot more strain on the occupational health team. So I think there's a lot of things within this next 12 months need to be revised, revisited, and see what as a council we can offer all our employees. That's from the chief exec down to people if they feel that they need some form of, whether it's mental health counselling, assistance or whatever, because the last thing we want as an health and safety committee is somebody coming to work with a mental health condition and obviously ending up having either a fatality or a serious accident. So it's something that we need to address, and we can, if we can have it on as an agendaed item. So each time now we can have some form of a quarterly update of what the council is actually putting in place. Is that anything out of the question, Jim?
No, I think, Chairman, that's a perfectly reasonable request to have. As you've said, we're in unprecedented times, and I think that is partially the reason why the stress policy has sat in previous years with our HR department. I think in previous years gone by, I think the biggest cause of stress in the workplace was probably relationship issues between people or between different tiers of managers and employees. Hence, it sat within HR. I think now we realise that we have a health issue here, a physical health issue that is creating a mental health issue. And our job title is health and safety at work. It's not just safety at work. So I think it's perfectly reasonable that this committee receives reports and discusses stress at work. And I think we can certainly speak to colleagues in HR and see what sort of report we can come back to with the next meeting, Jim.
Yeah, well, I'm going to put that forward, Jim, as a proposal to this committee. So I'm going to propose it. Could I please have a seconder?
I will.
Thank you, Joan. So Jim, I'm now going to go and ask.
Again, Chair, excuse me, can I just make one comment?
Yeah.
Before a vote? Thank you. I totally agree with what Jim said about health and safety and where the mental health policy should lie. Just an information matter, as part of the trade union's pay claim for this year, one of the requests was, and it is also in the pay offer, that mental health issues and causes should be investigated by both sides, employers and trade unions. So it doesn't appear there's any dispute on that, because the employers have come back with that as part of the pay offer. So at some stage that will be agreed and implemented. On that, though, I don't see there's any reason why Bassett Law should have to sit and wait for that. It's a growing concern, health and safety, mental illness, and I think the sooner we can start to look at it, the better.
Thanks,
you. Chair.
Cheers, Jim. Keith.
Melanie Bassett has raised her hand, Chair.
Yeah. Melanie.
Hi. I've just had a look on the Bassett Law intranet quick, and there's a workplace stress management policy, but that was introduced 8th of January 2002. So it is definitely something that needs updating with what is happening at the moment anyway and going forward.
Right, thanks for that, Melanie. So on finding that out now, Jim, obviously, when I say we put it to around the members, if they're in favour, that what I am suggesting is that we have an agendaed item, so that once a quarter we have an update on this issue, but also that, since Melanie has pointed that out, that the last time this was visited, this stress policy, that it's something that the council needs to address more or less ASAP, because it's 18 years out of date, that this is looked at and that it's fetched into the 21st century, please. Is that okay, Jim?
I'll certainly take that up with Karen Childs.
Right. Thank you for that, Jim. I'll go round the members and ask them if they're in favour of what has just been proposed. I've had a seconder, which was Councillor Joan Sanger, so I'm in favour of it. Dave Fretwell?
In favour.
Thank you. Dean Brett?
Can you unmute your microphone, please, Councillor Brett?
I'm in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Cliff Entwistle.
In favour, Dave.
Thank you. Councillor Izzard. I think still must be having problems, but you can hear us. Let us know. Obviously, I think if you're going to be in favour, against, or abstain it, Keith. David Presley.
In favour, Chairman.
Thank you. Joan Sanger.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Tyndall.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Bill Tomlinson.
Thank you, Chair. In favour. Thank you.
Thank you. From the union side, Keith Circuit.
In favour, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Phil Lee.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Melanie Bassett.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Jean Common.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. And thanks, Jean, for having the availability of looking to see when that policy had been looked at. Thank you. Right. Thank you, members, councillors and union officials, and from the administrating team. I would like the caster now to finish casting live. 5, 4, 3.